Hi, Ernie fans, awesome Ernie fans. So, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're enjoying the beautiful sunshine outside. It's so lovely. And hopefully, maybe tomorrow, you guys are going to have a tea party for VE Day. I know I will be, and sharing pictures virtually to friends. Yeah, so I hope you do something fun because tomorrow's a bank holiday, isn't it? So, anyway. Hope you guys have done really great with your activities, but we'll be sharing someone's activity just in a moment. But first of all, for those of you who are just joining me, my name is Beth Shepherd, and I'm the author of Ernie Gonzalez series. So my first book, Ernie Gonzalez, Determined Dreamer, that's what I'll be reading from today. And my second book, Ernie Gonzalez, Escape from Paradise. So I'll be reading that once we finish this one. Yeah, if we're still in lockdown, so I'll be working through this book. Hopefully we won't be, and I'll be finishing with this book, but let's see what happens. So, excuse me. So, let me just say a hello today and a special happy birthday to a really special, lovely girl that I have known for a long time, and her name is Amy Allen, and she lives in Venezuela in Spain. Maybe I've got that wrong. Maybe it isn't actually Venezuela, but she lives in the mountains somewhere in Spain where this book was set. So her and her little brother Ben have been Ernie fans for a while. So it was her birthday on Tuesday, and I didn't get a chance to wish her happy birthday. So happy birthday, Amy, and you are awesome. And keep up your creative stuff because I know you're super creative. Right, so let's crack on. So let's find out. Today we are reading the chapter Food, Glorious Food. So Ernie's adventure has really well and truly started. So if you remember, last chapter was First Steps to Freedom. So just a quick recap. So, sorry, I've got a really funny throat today. Something stuck in my throat. Hopefully it's not a fly, Captain Pablo. Anyway, so let's just go back. So Ernie has gone off on an awesome adventure to find the exciting olive garden that he believes it exists, but no one else does. So he won't really know until he actually finds it, but he believes in his heart. And so that's enough for Ernie to go off on a dangerous, daring adventure. And he's following his papa's dreams. So if you remember his grandfather's dreams, and his parents made fun of him. And remember, you guys wrote a letter, okay, which I shared last week, Hesselly's awesome letter, last session on Tuesday, Hesselly's awesome letter, written as if she was Ernie back to her family, which was brilliant, trying to convince them to come with her to see the awesome olive garden. Today, I will be sharing someone else's work, but we'll get to that in a moment. So then Ernie finds himself trapped as a pet in someone's fridge, and then finds himself in someone's fridge and then trapped as a pet on a plant pot on a windowsill. And I don't know if I told you guys, but this actually is my story. It was me who found a snail in my fridge and put him on a plant pot. This really happened. This is what gave me the idea for a story. I can't remember if I've mentioned that in my previous videos, but if not, there you go, because people always ask me, where do you get the idea for a story? And that is where I got my idea. Something happened, just picked my story from something ordinary life, and I put this little snail on the plant pot on the windowsill, and he was happy for a few days, and then one day he just vanished. And I thought, where has Ernie gone? Oh, and I named him Ernie. And here, where is this snail, Ernie, gone? And that's how I came up with the idea of the story. Anyway, so then last week, Ernie was just about to go off in search of his dreams, and he decided he was going to leave his nice life of being a pet. He didn't want to stay, when suddenly he came across a lifetime supply of tempting green olives. Now, let me just pause for a moment. Hopefully you guys all know about the competition that I'm running, okay, which I did on Tuesday after my last book reading, when I went to the fridge and found a jar of olives. Okay, so the competition is for you guys to guess how many olives are in the jar. Not this jar, my jar. So you'll find the picture on my Facebook page, and you've got until 15th of May. And the winner will get a copy of my next book, which will be awesome. So I can't wait to announce the winner. Right, so then Ernie decides he's had enough. Oh, he finds the empty snail shells behind the fridge, remember? Then he decides that's it, he's going. So last week, read First Steps to Freedom, and Ernie went inside the compost bin and waited for the owner to throw him outside of the window. And that's where we pick up the story. He's waiting for his owner to throw him outside of the window. So let's have a look. Food, glorious food. Smells like food. Ernie awoke with a jolt and found himself flying through the air. He watched in shock as trees and sky whooshed past him, and he hurtled towards the ground at a great speed. As he looked back, he caught a glimpse of his owners, and as they shook the last vegetable scrap out of the bin and closed the window. So his plan has worked. Awesome. Ha, he said smugly to himself as he landed with a soft bump and bounced a few times. Ernie found himself sitting on a giant compost heap. So before he was in the small compost bin, now he's on a giant compost heap. That must be paradise for a snail. A wonderland of vegetable scraps. There were trees everywhere, and the beautiful river flowed before him. The sky was a clear blue with a tinge of orange sunrise as the day was dawning. It was such a beautiful sight. Ernie breathed in the fresh, crisp air and realized that he must have been asleep since lunchtime the previous day. Wow, he must have needed that big nap after that huge climb down up the top of the fridge and then up to the top of the veggie bin. He must have needed it after all his adventures. And he felt refreshed after such a good rest. With delight, he sat on a soft banana skin and enjoyed watching the morning sun as it made its way over the leafy trees. He was happy, even though he had no idea where he was going, what adventures lay ahead of him, or how he would find his way to his paradise land. But at least he knew that he had followed his heart and he had made his escape. Nothing scares me anymore. I am ready for anything, he thought as he lay back in the sunshine. You are trespassing on private property and you have 10 seconds to leave or I will charge. The voice came out of nowhere in the silence of the early morning. Ernie jumped. It was a loud and frightening voice, and it caused the tiny hairs on his head to stand on end. Just as he was about to run in terror, the voice bellowed again. When I say charge, I don't mean I will make you pay. Well, what I mean is I will charge. Run forward, that is, and squash you with my bare hands. Ooh, I wonder who this is. Ernie looked puzzled. Something about the voice didn't quite seem right. Bracing himself to run as fast as his little snail body would carry him, he bravely turned around, expecting to see a giant, scary creature. I wonder if you can guess what is making this noise. Have a think. Let's see. Let's find out. But to his surprise, he came face to face with the open end of a large milk carton. Not what Ernie was expecting, I can imagine. Peering at him from inside it were two boggly eyes. Bit of a clue? Wondering if you can guess? Not very different from his own. Charge! Boomed the voice again. Ernie's tentacles were blown back with the force, but he didn't budge. Instead, he folded his tentacles and stood his ground. Eventually, a pair of green, slimy tentacles peered out from the milk carton, followed by the rest of a snail. G'day, said the other snail sheepishly. I am Bruce. Have a look, check out there. So I wonder if you guessed right. What do you think of my Aussie accent? It's not very good to practice that. Ernie smiled and replied, I'm Ernie, nice to meet you. Bruce, slid across the carrot peelings and cabbage leaves to where Ernie was, and they greeted each other by shaking tentacles. Bruce looked slightly embarrassed at his failed attempts to scare the intruder off of his property. Ernie's heart was still pounding a little from the shock, but he was so glad to finally meet another snail after being alone all this time. Bruce was a large, slightly unusual-looking snail. He had covered his shell in bits of green food that he had found on the compost heap. And on his head, he wore what looked like an army hat, which was actually just half of a cherry pip. Ernie thought that if he didn't look too closely, Bruce looked like an army snail, if there was such a thing. He wasn't sure if there was. An army ant, yes, but an army snail? No, snails are far too peaceful to have armies, he thought, but he couldn't help chuckling to himself at Bruce's dress sense and his funny attempts to scare him off of his compost heap. Okay, right, end of quite a short chapter today. So the next chapter is a sparkle of adventure, and we find out a little bit more about Bruce's story and how he got there and what happens next. Does he decide to help Ernie on his adventure? So I did give it away where Bruce is from, unfortunately, because that would have been one of my questions. Can you guess where Bruce is from? So now you know. So I've given the game away. But anyway, maybe my awesome Australian accent would have given the game away anyway. Right, so I have an activity for you guys today. My activity is I love using adjectives when improving my writing. So great if you can add adjectives as you go when you're writing, but sometimes we're so busy getting our ideas down, we forget to add the adjectives to bring that idea to life, to make that sentence even more descriptive, that we just forget about it. So we can always go back over our work and add the adjectives in later. There's no reason that you can't do that, but just as long as you add them. So adjectives are brilliant ways to bring a sentence to life and make your sentence sound wow. Okay, so let me give you an example. The giant green olives. Okay, nothing wrong with that. But what about the delicious, succulent, verdant green olives? How about that? Or is that the right one? Verdant green? Yeah. I bet you guys could do way better than that. So I want you guys to have a think about how you can use adjectives. So descriptive words before you say what it is. So let's have a look. I've got another activity for you guys. So I would love you to write a short story this time. I haven't asked you to write a short story yet. So I've been giving you tips about how to write a story, but I know you guys could already write an awesome story. So I would love you to write a story about animals living at the bottom of your garden. If you have a garden, if unfortunately you don't, which is fine, maybe you have a little balcony with plant pots, or maybe it is animals on your plant pot in your house. I'm sure in your plant pot there are some bugs buried, even if the plant pot is in the house. But maybe you have a favorite park that you like to visit. If you don't have a garden, not everybody does. So maybe you want to write about animals living in the park. Okay, whichever you choose is perfectly fine. Okay, but I want you to use good descriptions in that writing. So especially when you're describing where they live. So the setting description. So setting descriptions are brilliant, and often you'll find them at the beginning of a story. Okay, but sometimes you might need to add them other parts of your story as your character moves into a new location. But often stories are set sometimes when you're doing a short story in one particular place. So before you launch into your story, you want to describe the setting. So I think I talked a few weeks ago about using your senses in descriptions, but also using adjectives is a brilliant way to write a good setting description. So I don't want you just to use the adjectives in your setting, but throughout the story, but particularly in your setting of where your story is happening. So that is your awesome activity. And I now have one that I would love to share. So this is from last week. Sorry. How did you guys get on with writing your action paragraph? The paragraph with short sentences. I have heard one and it was brilliant. So maybe I'll share that another week. But I have got something brilliant that I would like to share today. And it is from Jinhan, who's been watching. And she has written a news article. I was so excited to get you guys, get your news articles. And I'm so excited to share this one. So let me just read this to you. Breaking news. Human attacks on snails. Oh my goodness. Young adventurer Ernie has found a pile of snail shells behind a human fridge and has discovered humans are trying to catch snails to eat. Oh my goodness. The clever Ernie has escaped, luckily, but there are still some snails that could get caught. So what a brilliant introduction. Very good. In the first paragraph, she has summed up what is going to be said in the news report. Let's see what happens next. Reporter, how did you find this pile of snail shells? So this is the reporter asking Ernie. Ernie, I was trying to get fit and exercise with Captain Pablo, but he was very annoying, so I tried to escape. Then found many shells behind a human fridge. At first, I thought they were snails, but when I went closer, they weren't talking and were completely empty. So see how she has used dialogue to tell the story of what happened. It's brilliant. Reporter, how did you feel after it? And she's remembered her question marks. Really good. Ernie, I was very curious and very mad, and I felt as if I was going to explode with anger. Wow, poor Ernie is very angry. Reporter, what would you like to say to the humans? Ernie, nothing at all. All I'd like them to do is to look themselves up at home and not dare to pick or touch a snail again. Very good advice from Ernie. And then she's ended it with a brilliant conclusion. So very cleverly, we all know Ernie is very angry. Very clearly, we all know Ernie is very angry and unhappy, but luckily Ernie has a plan. Ernie always seems to have a plan. Ernie has found a very kind young girl and has made one tiny house for each snail to live in. The only problem is the girl will move away a week later. Check tomorrow's news for more information. Brilliant. I love that. I love the ending of that news report. So, lots of ideas she could have done that. She could have thought about maybe Ernie sets up a Save the Snails campaign in his local community, or what Ernie is going to do next about this. So what a great example of a news report. So I am looking forward to seeing your short story. So please send that to me. I would love to share it out. I might not be able to share it out if it's too long, but that's fine. Write as much as you need to write, and that will be awesome. So I hope you guys have a great day off tomorrow and a brilliant weekend, and I will see you next Tuesday. Take care. Bye.